right? Have you guys seen the movie Black? Any one of you?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
Yeah. So there is a person who cannot, and I'm sure many of you have heard of Helen Keller. Have you heard of Helen Keller, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
You have, right? So Helen Keller's situation was what? When she couldn't see, she couldn't speak, and she couldn't hear, right? So what was the childhood like? Anyone who knows about Helen Keller, what was the childhood like?
Secluded.
Secluded, yes. And she comes from a very, very affluent family, okay, which means her parents had a lot of money. They could have kept very good care of her, and yet when the teacher who taught her how to actually communicate, when the teacher met her, she was living like an animal. Why was that? Why was she living like an animal? Because she actually, even if she cannot hear, because there are a lot of people who are special needs people, right? If they are at least born in very affluent families and they have a lot of all sorts of comfort, they are still taken care of, right? They don't present themselves as very feral, but she was extremely wild and feral, almost like the parents couldn't even control her. Why is that they couldn't control her?
Ma'am, because there was no communication between the parents and the child.
Yeah. So no matter what kind of environment she's born in, just the fact that she couldn't they couldn't communicate in her with her, they couldn't. But does that mean that nobody could communicate with her? That communication was not possible just because she didn't have these three senses?
No, no.
No, right? Because then eventually a teacher came and taught her, right? And
Yes,
then
ma'am.
and then she not only spoke to her parents, they communicated with her parents, but she communicated with Einstein, big prime ministers, presidents of the countries, right? And with crowds, right? So now I'll give you a thought experiment, which is, now imagine a person who is like Helen Keller, cannot hear, cannot speak, cannot see, okay, and cannot even touch, because Helen Keller's teacher taught her through touch, right? But that person, and that is the actual condition, by the way, some people, they are, it's called being numb, okay, that you cannot feel touch. And this person has basically no senses, cannot even taste food. Is that person, how is that person's life, and how will that person ever communicate? Anybody want to give it a try? Is that person even alive? A lot of silence. Can somebody speak up?
I think that person can use the I to communicate.
I to communicate. Yeah, but that person now see cannot even move.
Maybe he can give sign lines from his or her eye.
Yeah, but how will see it's a two-way communication now? How will that person know anything? Because that person can't see as well, right? So that person cannot touch also, cannot feel touch also. Think about it. Cannot touch, cannot smell, cannot taste, nothing, no senses at all working. How will the outside world ever communicate, and will that person ever know that there is a world outside?
With modern technology, it may be possible. Like,
Sure, I mean, of course, everything can be fixed, and probably there'll be some technology where all senses, but currently that person doesn't have senses. So tell me, how is it possible to communicate at all with the world? Will that person have any idea of the world?
No, ma'am. That person would be like completely disconnected from the external world.
Yeah, and there is no, will that person have any sense of life, the kind of life that we think is life?
No, ma'am, I don't think so. It's not
No,
possible
ma'am.
practically.
Not practical. There is this other inner sense that we have, which no one speaks of too much. But I will say that, for example, when have you ever sat on giant wheel?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you just suddenly swoop down in your stomach, you feel something,
Yes, ma'am. The
or
heart
if
just
someone,
drops.
and sometimes in our sleep also we feel that we are just falling and we get that sense in our stomach.
Yes, ma'am.
So that feeling is also there from inside. So that might also give some feeling. But with that feeling, can the person communicate with the outside world?
No, ma'am.
No,
No,
ma'am.
right? Okay. So then what is communication? If I've given you this whole setup, right? Now tell me, what is communication then? Given this thought experiment, what is communication? What the situation I've given you, where it seems like it is impossible for this person to communicate anything with the outer world, and forget about communication. The person cannot sense the world itself or understand the world itself, right?
Ma'am, after you said, like, as I said earlier as well, I think communication is just not about speaking or hearing.
Hmm.
It's like any way through which, like, we humans connect or express and experience each other or the external world.
Yes, experience the
Yeah,
external world, yeah.
yeah,
And also, but this person is still alive, right? And the person
yeah.
is experiencing something, like even if it's their own breath, they're experiencing it. But just because this person cannot experience the world the way they experience, like everyone else experiences, right? We say that the person cannot experience life itself, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So communication, you're right. Communication, that's why, is not just about, it's always in context of the world that you live in, right? It's always what the majority believes life is, right? And that is one part of it, right? Where when you interact with the world, you have to understand what the world is and what the world you're living in, and hence having a very clear knowledge. And when I say world, even if it's a one-to-one conversation, right, you have to have a clear understanding of what that world is. Now all of you have switched off your video, right? If this video was on, it would have been a very different experience, right? And I'm not commenting on this, please keep it switched off, I have no problem with that at all, your choice. But I'm saying if it is switched on, it's very different. Plus, imagine if you were sitting in front of me, that experience would have been even more different, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, right? But it's a different experience, right? So communication always happens in a context, right? Communication is never, so if anybody tells you that I'm going to teach you communication, I think there is no teaching communication, because communication is always on in with respect to a certain context. That is one of the most fundamental things you have to remember, that is what communication is. Number two, communication, like I told you, what happened of this person in the thought experiment, every sense of that person has gone away, isn't it? So would you say that somebody probably who cannot see and cannot speak will be able to communicate less with the world? Practically speaking, yes. I'm not saying the quality of the life of that person will be any less. It can be even beautiful, because everyone in their life can probably learn sign language, touch language, and all of that, right? But the point is that if your senses, and here what are we talking about? Someone's senses being what? At what level? Zero level, right? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah. Now, what if I tell you that all of us are on a spectrum of our senses being active, which means how we see, how we taste, how we smell. Like, do you know a perfumer's sense of smell will be much sharper than any one of ours? Is that right? Am I right when I say this?
Yes, ma'am.
And if I tell you a chef can tell you an entire story by just taste, if you know how to read that story of taste, right? But a chef with another chef, a Michelin star chef, can tell an entire story to another person with food, with taste. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
So why? It's because they understand the vocabulary of that sense, right? Similarly, fundamental thing one, first fundamental thing is communication always happens in a context of the world of whatever majority feels is communication, right? And the second point is that all of us are on the spectrum of improving our senses. And unless we don't improve our senses, we will never be good communicators. Like we'll be able to talk to each other and basically someone said, na, to pass information, we'll pass information, but will we communicate? Not sure, right? So for example, a photographer, they say a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? But there are so many pictures that everyone takes on their phones. Do you think all those pictures speak 1,000 words?
No, I don't think so.
No, right? But a photographer can see a normal person's picture also and can probably pick up 500 words right out of it. And a good photographer, between another good photographer, can speak 1 lakh words probably with each other, right? Why? Because they have improved their sense of visual. So, point number two. Point number one is always be aware in which context you are there, right? In which part of the world you are, which situation you are, right? Because all communication happens in that context. The second point is that we actually, what will usually people think in communication session, that someone will give you see a lot of podcasts now on communication saying that you have to speak confidently, you have to always look at body language, you have to improve your body language, then you have to have eye contact, and they'll give you all these tips and everything. But the basic funda is very simple. You have to improve the tools for good communication. Like you have what are the tools for good communication? Tell me.
Confidence.
Confidence,
Clarity.
Na good vocab.
good vocab, yeah. Writing, as in pen, na? Pen is a basic tool, na? You can write.
हाँ,
Huh? You can communicate through pictures also. So a camera is also a good tool, right? A projector, a computer, a mic. Yes. But how about we start thinking this a little differently? And the biggest tool that we have when we have nothing with us, that biology has given us, the biggest tool are our senses. And how much time since we were children have we been taught to hone our senses, to hone our tools? Because what does a carpenter do? The carpenter takes care of their tools, which are what? Maybe a hammer or a saw or nails. You know what I'm saying? Right? But what are our tools? We will take care of our cameras for sure, isn't it? But if we don't have the right, if we haven't trained our eye to see a scene in a certain way, and if we continuously don't practice visual art, seeing, right, and visual appreciation, how will we be able to communicate fully, right? So, so some of the best communicators actually have what you call have actually trained their senses very, very well, right? They have trained after watching stuff for long, listening to stuff for long. So listening to music, to absolutely listen to music for a long time. Because why? I'll tell you why it comes into play. Because then someday say that, okay, one of you wants to make a video for some political communication or for some research communication, right? And you make a video and then you choose some song you choose. But unless a good communicator who has trained in music or has trained in audio communication, right? They will know how to pick the best audio for that video, right? Similarly with touch, right? All of us know here, right? Good touch, bad touch. Everyone understands communication through touch, right? Today, I don't know if you have been watching what you call watching what's happening in Tamil Nadu. I don't know. Do you know what the elections and everything that has happened and what's happened today
Yes, ma'am.
in Tamil Nadu? Yeah. So today when Vijay went and met Stalin, right? The way they held hands, that is
Yes.
communication. Yeah, that's communication. They could have just met, shook hands, right? With Udaynidhi, he hugged him. That is touch. That is communication. So we might not know what it is, but we have felt somebody hugging us. So when we see Vijay hugging uh, Uday, and for how long did they hug? All that matters. And how tightly did they hug, or was it just a very cold shrug, kind of cold hug kind of a thing? We can see that, right? And we can actually feel what probably each one would have felt. So our senses, the touch, the smell, the audio, the this thing, a good communicator continuously keeps honing these things. Yeah. Any thoughts on what I have spoken about communication till now? Any thoughts coming to you, or was it all whatever? If it's nothing, also please tell me it is nothing. But tell me it is nothing. Okay. But at least speak up and say, okay, this was all whatever. So any thoughts that are coming to your mind about communication?
Ma'am, communication is necessary for like every person, whether they are like specially abled, normal person, or whether a star, whether a politician. It depends on how they communicate. Like their level of communication will be different with like the people they meet. It will be different for each person.
Hmm. Yeah. So now give me an answer from a personal point of view. What have you felt about communication after this? Like, what have you understood differently about communication?
Ma'am, should I
Yes,
express?
Tanya.
Ma'am, according to like my point of view, like till now, whatever discussion we had, I think communication felt like it's basically the foundation of like human connection and the society itself. And I also am finding it like interesting how communication changes depending on the audience or situations, like
Hmm.
as you said, the context.
Yeah, these are
Yeah,
two
that
fundamental things. I'll tell you who else
is.
communicates. Okay, animals definitely do. But do you know that Karela also communicates with its taste?
Mm,
Do you know
mm,
most of the poisonous plants are actually bitter because they are
mm.
communicating. They're saying, "Don't eat." Not
Ah,
Karela. Karela is very good for health. But you know what I'm saying?
I got it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
everything, like you rightly said, one sentence that you said, it is the actual foundation of human existence. Communication. It is far more and bigger than what is taught in classes, what this confidence speaking. Matlab, we will reach there someday where we will very confidently speak to 1 lakh people on stage, right? And like someone here had told, it's about hello, everyone. Sorry, for some reason I got disconnected. Can you see me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. I was in the middle of this thing. I'm saying that. So it is communication is far more wider. Like, someday we will speak to 1 lakh people in a crowd. And, one of you said that, it's about confidence. Yes, yes. All those things can be developed and, we can do. There is a point to that also. Can anybody define me what is confidence here in one sentence? Or maybe in two sentences, whatever, however you want to. What is confidence? Because whenever people speak of communication, everyone speaks of saying confidence. That's the first thought that comes to people's mind
Being able to communicate without getting anxious.
without getting anxious. Yeah. What else?
Ability to speak in front of 1,000 people.
Recording in progress. Sorry. So, ability to speak to thousands of people. But that's what I said. That ability, how do you get that ability? That confidence, right? To speak.
Should I?
Yes.
I think it's like having belief in ourselves that yes, whatever we are speaking, like we mean it, and like we are willing to like let them be heard, kind of.
Let them be heard.
I
Yeah.
I don't know how to express like as in explain this, but like somewhat like that.
Hmm. So one of the best definitions I've heard of communication, and that kind of helped me, maybe there are different definitions of this thing, is confidence in general. Forget about confidence in front of stage or anything. Confidence to sometimes even face yourself, right? Confidence is nothing but your ability to be okay with experiencing any emotion, any kind of emotion. And usually the kind of emotions that stops us from standing in front of people, large number of people, is fear, shame, because we refuse, because our body says that we don't want to experience shame. I don't want to get embarrassed. And that emotion stops us from going ahead. If we say that I'm okay to feel embarrassed also, yeah, people will just go and speak. Yeah. So confidence is just your ability to accept to feel every kind of emotion, all kind of emotion. Sometimes people are very scared to speak, because communicate, because they feel that someone will hurt them. So that is which emotion? Fear. But if you don't have fear, you, what they say, fearlessly communicate, right? Shamelessly communicate, right? Um, being egoless and communicate. So it's all about all emotion less communication is what confidence is. Yeah. So we will reach there someday of being able to get confident and, speaking in front of so many people. But before that, can we come back and respect what is the existential need of communication? That it is so foundational to us. And can we commit that going forward, while we do our regular communication work and communication enhancing, the fundamental thing that we do is we will train our senses. And in every sense, even if you say that I'm not a foodie, I would say, but please train your sense of taste. You never know where that communication will come and play, right? Please start listening to, music that has been made by, such how do you say, such artists who have been like, right from Western classical to Indian classical to what you call even pop music, which has been very very good, even movie music, film music, which has been very very good, right? And don't be discerning, don't be too discerning in the sense that I will only watch the finest of the finest, or how do you say, I will listen to finest of the finest songs. No, finest someone else said. Like I told you, everything is a context, right? So if you're going to go and sit with a bunch of people whose finest of the finest is some Bollywood songs, then Bollywood songs is what you need to know, right? So there is no finest of the finest. Some people said, okay, this is the finest. What I would say is that listen to variety of music, listen to variety of voices, learn how to train your voice, learn how people have listened to different types of sound, right? What did Sneha Kanvalkar do? She actually started making music from different sounds versus actually arranging it in some studio, right? Sneha Kanvalkar, do you know? She's a music director, one of the very few female music directors in Bollywood, right? And or Gangs of Wasseypur, she's given the music as well. So it's all music from sounds, right? What was she doing? She was hearing. How do you train your eyes? Is just by observing. Go and sit somewhere and just for an hour, look at a scene. Anywhere, sit in a park, sit in your college, sit anywhere. Sit in your house and look out of the window. Just look at one scene and go deeper in that scene. Go deeper and deeper and deeper, and there'll be so many layers of story, right? So these are different ways of training all your senses. Touch, okay? I'm saying that you by now you would have touched all types of textures, right? Soft, rough, stone, rock. But consciously, have you done that? Consciously, have you done? And of course, when I'm saying all of this, you must be wondering that, Arey, but how is all of this relevant to me having to give a speech somewhere or to kind of draft a note or draft a letter? How is this, or in an interview, how is all this going to help? Because you live in this world. And what is this world? This world is a material world. Yeah. It is made of what they say is Prakriti, right? Prakriti. It's made of 5 elements. And unless you master the 5 senses, and what I said was the context, right? Is nothing but the 5 elements in this world. Do you agree that both of these are the most fundamental things in this life? Our 5 senses are the gatekeepers to the world. Because if we don't, like we saw in the thought experiment, if we don't have these 5 senses, we will not be able to experience the world at all. So if our senses are poorly trained, we experience the world a little less, and hence we communicate with it a little less. Similarly, if we don't understand the 5 elements of this world and the mixture of them around, we will not understand the context very, very well. Yeah. So you need to be very, very conscious about this. Like I'll tell you, some of you are researchers here, right? So when I have gone for research, one of the things that my teacher had once trained me, and there is, I don't know if you guys know, in research there is something called as an empathy map, where you just don't listen to what they are saying, but you also constantly are looking at. For example, if we are doing a research, like I've been in advertising, so we do a lot of research in we do research. So for example, it's a toothpaste, right? So we don't just ask the person saying, how do you use your toothpaste and all. We do a proper audit of their bathroom. We actually look at them, how do they brush, right? We just don't do FGDs, and we don't do just DIs, like, personal interviews, PIs, etc., right? We actually go and do audits. Why? Because the context matters. For example, if you're doing an interview and you're trying to understand the mental status of somebody who lives in a gated community versus someone lives next to a railway track, right? And it has nothing to do with just poverty, let me tell you that. Okay? The fact that that person has to continuously listen to a train passing every 5 minutes has an effect on their mental health, right? Has an effect on their life. So either mental health, in the sense, either they'll become really disturbed or they'll become full saint only with that kind of disturbance. And if you can keep peace in that kind of disturbance, you will become a saint, right? But either way, it will be a big effect. It will affect their life quite a bit. And for you as a communicator, you have to be very conscious about that thing. And hence, you have to be very, very conscious about and train your entire senses whenever you're meeting somebody to communicate with them. That what is the context? Okay, I'm sitting with this person. Sometimes you're communicating with somebody and you're listening to them. And what do you say? I'm a good listener. Yeah. Have you heard of this? People saying I'm a good listener.
Yes.
What do
Yes,
they mean?
ma'am.
What do they mean when they are good listeners? What do they mean?
They are good with analyzing what we actually mean by our words.
That person is saying, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. What I would say is that to be a very good communicator, you will not just be a good listener of the person, but you will also be a good listener of everything that's happening around. So are you in a park speaking to that person, and are there birds chirping around? Are you conscious about that? Are you sitting in a discotheque and trying to talk to some person and you're wondering, you know, for all you know, that might just help the communication. It might actually fail the communication also, depending on how music affects that person. There are some people who are extremely motivated in high decibel volume environments. They're extremely motivated and they will listen to you very, very well, even though there is so much noise. And they will also be very positive and respond very positively and probably say yes to you. There are other people for whom loud music is disturbing, right? And they will say, for some people, very slow music is disturbing, like they have no energy and they get very irritated. So it's basically you what's happening around, and it is that person. And all of this is being put together by two things, which is the five senses and the five elements. Right? You're standing in the water, like you, for example, I don't know if you know, there was a Pani Andolan that happened, right? Where this was during when Medha Patkar had done, I don't know, you guys know Medha Patkar? Please tell me you know Medha Patkar. Anybody here knows Medha Patkar?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course, Narmada Bacharao Andolan. So one of the Andolans they had done is they were underwater for days. They were standing in water, not underwater, but they were standing in water, right? It's very different to talk to somebody who's in water for so many days and not. I don't know how many people who communicated with them were very conscious about what water does and what is the effect of water, or if they had to get into water and then communicate in very cold water and how much that is affecting them. Were they conscious when they entered the water to do any negotiations with Mera Patkar, saying that, this water is up because they are not used to getting into water, the people who are negotiating from government side. But are they conscious what the water is going to do to them and how that will affect their communication and negotiation? Are they conscious about that? Heat. Heat is the biggest thing, and heat touches your skin, right? So it is part of the touch element because fire element goes with touch, right? Heat. You're communicating with someone on a hot summer day under the sun. So a lot of people come back saying, oh, the meeting went bad. The meeting didn't go bad because your communication was bad. Probably the environment was not well, not conducive for the conversation. And were you conscious? How do you change? There are some people who are so, how do you say, so tuned to the world around and the senses and the elements that they know that the temperature in a room for an interview has to be a certain degree. And they set it to that degree for having a better communication. That is what the highest form of communication is to continuously be aware of the situation that's around. Yeah. Are you getting what I'm saying? This is all I'm sure, I didn't want to bring slides for you. There are some couple of slides that I can show you, but I didn't want to bring so many slides and this thing, basically because this is the fundamental of communication, no matter what people tell you, because everything else you can learn on YouTube. All those small tools and tricks and everything that they say, right? Body language kaisa hona chahiye. Like they will say, like, what's his name? Who's the YouTuber? That guy who sits abroad and he does his Dhruv Rathi, right?
Yes, ma'am.
They will say Dhruv Rathi speaks with his hands, and at the right time he will accentuate his hand. All those things you will learn on YouTube, no problem. Yeah. And a lot of these communicators, by the way, are not conscious about all these things that I've told you. They might just do it naturally. So some people say, no, you're a natural communicator. That's because their brain is naturally tuned to understand micro changes and micro behaviors around. That is, the brain is wired that way since birth. As in, that's just their biology, right? And they can understand micro expressions. They can understand even slightest change in temperature, slightest change in wind, all those things. The brain is just tuned to understand these micro changes, and hence they immediately adapt to it and they communicate. And if you ask them how do they do it, they will not be able to tell you how they do it because they are like, ये तो natural, I'm a natural, अभी ये तो natural है, no one taught me, I was just from childhood I was very talkative. Or they usually say that people who are talkative is communicate a lot. Not true. Some of the best communicators in this world who have communicated through music, movies, speeches, to many other things. Like Gandhi has left so much. Gandhi has left so much like heavy duty messages for us, right? Gandhi believed he was not a good communicator, and that's why he spoke very less because he realized he can't communicate. And but that is a very classical definition of communication, right? With his silence, he communicated so much. So, so even people who feel that who you feel are good communicators sometimes might not be able to tell you also why they're communicating so well. But it is mainly and mainly because their brain is already probably from childhood wired to understand, to be completely in tune with their five senses and actually be very, very attentive with all their five senses. And also, they are very attuned to the five elements and the changes, micro changes that happen in those five elements around them. And that's why they communicate very well. This is the basic biology and the whole at an existential level. One, what I've told you is the need of communication and the role of communication in our human existence, or rather, even this living existence of every living being. And the second thing is that you have to continuously hone this, each of your senses, even if you think, uh, why should I, why should I even, sharpen my sense of taste? What will it do? You don't know. Yeah. So some of the salespeople, people who say that, who are very good at sales. Some of the best communicators are people who, someone said, no, to sell idea or something, to exchange idea or sell idea. So even if someone is selling a sabun, right, like a soap or a shampoo, or if someone is selling a transformational idea to the world, they're eventually selling, right? People who are best salespeople are considered as some of the best communicators. They will know exactly the person who's sitting in front of them. Probably they have to sell a big deal to them about some big consignment they want to sell them, or some big idea they have to sell them. They will know exactly how to control the entire environment, because they know that communication happens in a context. And so, how can I kind of somehow at least adjust the context? And for that, they also study the person in front, because I am, of course, communicating to somebody, right? If there are multiple people, then I have to study all of them and how these senses affect them as well, and how these elements affect them, and how tuned are their senses, right? If that person is a very visual person, for example. So for me, I've presented to clients like globally, India national level, to CEOs, to everyone, senior to junior people, right? It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is what kind of a communicator is that person. So there are some people who are visual communicators, which means they understand things only if you put it as an infographic. There are some people who are long copy people. You understand what long copy is? When you write a long note, then only they will understand. There are some people who say that don't show me anything, just talk to me, because they understand better through. So I need to know the person in front of me, which sense actually is more tuned to them, which of their senses is really tuned for communication. I have to understand that. But eventually, it is all the game and play of senses and five elements. That's it. I have to understand that this person doesn't like warm places. This person doesn't like cold places. They are not comfortable in cold places, right? This person, some of the salespeople take people out for dinner, lunch, and everything. Why do they take to specific places? Because they like this kind of taste. They eventually you will see, like, even if it's a relationship, what are the things that we meet on? Movies, food. We are continuously communicating through senses, and trying to delight the senses of people that we want to keep relationship with, right? Or like my father says to my mother, next time if you don't burn the toast, it will be fine. Okay, sometimes when she's angry, she might burn the toast, or when he's also cooking, sometimes he might burn the toast when he's angry, right? So it's a message, right? So we are continuously giving some sort of messages through, eventually the play is simple. It's of five senses and of the five elements. That's it, nothing else. So if you want to be good communicators, you have to master all your five senses, and you have to master the understanding of the five elements that are around, and also of the receiver, whoever you're speaking to. Yeah. Tell me everything above the head, everything nonsense, or did you get anything from this? Anyone? Okay, you can ask questions if you want. No one has questions?
I have
Yes, yes, Tarun, tell me.
we talk about like communication can be of many types. But we see in our colleges like who are good orators, they got like good marks and in presentation they can work well.
Sorry, I
It
can't hear
reflects
you, Tarun.
mark.
Tarun, your voice is cracking. Either you're on a headphone or something, which is not working. Do you want to type it in chat and tell me?
Am I audible now?
Can you speak again?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I was asking like you talk about various type of communication are there, but what I'm saying is like those people who have very good orators and can speak well, they in colleges or in schools, they got high marks or their marks reflect that they have performed well in classes. Like how can we improve with our orat
Okay.
kind of
Are you saying that people who communicate well also end up scoring more?
Not always, but yeah, it reflects in their marks. Like we have to present in our college,
Yeah,
and they speak well in
correct.
those.
So this is what it is. You start by training your senses. You start by speaking. Like, for example, do you read the newspaper or anything that you read? Any book that you read?
So EPW,
Sorry,
EPW and newspapers,
I can't hear you.
and EPW and newspapers.
Newspapers. So you have to start reading it aloud. You have to start reading everything aloud because your mouth also has muscles in them, right? And your tongue has to roll in a certain way. And if it doesn't, you will not be able to communicate as well as people who do. Now, some people are just born with better muscles, or if they, for example, like I told you, like if they have to write also a thesis, right? They communicate better because they are able to probably express the words very, very well. However, they learn to express very well because they have been reading a lot, right? So all of this is a combination of number one, your command over whichever language you want to speak. I don't think language is a problem. In any language that the teacher or anybody wants, whoever is the receiver wants to hear, right? That language has to be there. Number one, you have to have a good command over that language. How will you get good command over that language? By practicing it. Nothing else. And the problem is that we refuse to practice, right? You have to practice that language. Number two is that you have to be confident in speaking. And for that, confidence is practice. Start in this is what I'm telling you. This you will find so many of these ideas on YouTube where they will tell you go in front of a mirror, start reading in front of a mirror, right? And you start doing that is just basic practice, nothing else. Okay, go and stand in front of the people that you think you can trust or whoever and tell them sit in front of me and I want to just practice. What do actors do? They first rehearse with people that they know before they go and give an audition. They ask their family members, their friends to just sit and do. But we find it very awkward to ask people to help with communication, for practice of communication. Why not? You maybe pair up with one of your other classmates or somebody, and you tell we will practice with each other and start practicing with them. Yeah, just give me a second, please. There's someone at the door. Yeah. So you have to practice these things. Yeah. So one is that you have to practice command over language. You have to practice that will come from reading, basically reading and speaking. Like if I have to now communicate something in French, I'll have to first learn French. If the person I'm going to talk to or present to is only understands French, I have to learn French. right? And for that, I have to practice French. Then how will I practice? I'll have to practice with somebody, right? The same with any other language. So that's why this whole language politics that's happening right now is a little silly. Gandhi knew 11 languages. He could speak fluently, 11 languages. So why is that? Because a good communicator doesn't discriminate between languages. For them, language is a tool. If I have to communicate, I have to just learn it. Simple as that. Then taking it on anyone's ego, saying, oh, but this is not my language. Why did Britishers come and put English here? Oh, why did these people come and put this other language here? Why are they refusing to speak in this language? I mean, you cannot be biased, you cannot be judgmental when it comes to being a communicator. If you want to be a good communicator, you have to, whatever it takes, you have to do it. It's as simple as that. Of course, there's a lot of reform we can bring such that more people don't get discriminated because of language, because, some people didn't have access to that language when they were children. So, and all that, yes, we have to continuously do the reform. But even to make that reform, we will have to do some communication, no, to make that reform. We have to become good communicators to have influence to do that, to make that change, right? So in the time being, we'll have to, like Ambedkar said, na, Ambedkar's one of the things he had told as a command to everyone from the Dalit community was that learn English, just learn English. Why did he say? Because English really helped him communicate to number of people, large number of people. It also gave him access to many places. We can all say, but the access was already rigged because the people who were powerful spoke English. Yes, of course. But then he made a choice. And he said that if I have to crack the system, first I have to learn the language of the system. Yeah. So any language. So that is you have to do. You have to practice. You have to learn. The second thing is, of course, uh, like I told you, you have to be develop confidence. Confidence is also a skill. Confidence is not inborn only. It is a skill. You can easily build confidence if you practice. But you have to be very conscious that I'm doing these practices to build confidence. There are on YouTube, you'll find many things where, or on ChatGPT, you can just put on AI and you can just ask saying, give me exercise, daily exercises for 5 minutes to build confidence. Simple. What did I say was confidence? Confidence is nothing but being able to experience all types of emotions. Yeah. Which are the emotions? Okay, you tell me which are the emotions that we most run away from? Any one of you? Which are the emotions that we most run away from?
Fear and shame.
Fear, shame, very good. Guilt, regret. Yeah, I don't want to say this because I might regret it. Isn't it?
Hesitation.
Hesitation. Yeah. Hesitation happens. Hesitation is a behavior. It's not a feeling. Hesitation happens because of one of the feeling. Hesitation can happen because you are scared. Hesitation can happen because you are ashamed. Hesitation can happen. So hesitation is a behavior. The emotion is any one of these, right?
Ma'am, insecurity.
Insecurity. Yeah. See, insecurity also, no, can I tell you? I'm sorry, I'm going deep, slightly more into this because again, you have to
Yeah.
understand what is a behavior and what is a this thing. Insecurity is a behavior. It is your response to a feeling. And insecurity can also come because that person is bigger than you, so you're scared. Insecurity can also come because of shame, because some people feel the shame between, say, somebody has more money, you have less money. You know, or the insecurity can happen because of many emotions. Emotions are there only four or five. There is sadness, there is basically grief, sadness, etc. There is joy, happiness, etc. Then there is fear. Then there is shame and guilt. Right? Regret is part of guilt only. So there are only five or six emotions. You know, not more than that. And there is disgust. Disgust is another emotion. Have you heard about Navras? Navras, which they do in dance and music. Navras. Have you heard of Navras? Anyone here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Acha, if you want to be a communicator now, you need to have knowledge of many, many things, huh? So of many arts, culture to everything, because it helps you. So if Navras is nothing but the nine emotions, right? And mostly they cover most of the emotions, the navras, hmm? The 9 emotions. So those emotions are something. But tell me one thing, if we are continuously from childhood trying to avoid embarrassment, okay, that we are not letting ourselves experience only embarrassment. And when it happens, your brain wants to immediately shut it out, forget it, and not accept it. Right? Am I right or wrong?
Yes, ma'am.
Then how will you build confidence? Because these are the, don't go there, you'll get scared. I'm not saying jump from somewhere, of course, but I'm just saying, but basic things, right, where you can overcome fear. Because every emotion is a muscle. Like, you say that, my, for example, my core muscles are weak, right? What will you do? What will a trainer tell you? Core muscles are weak. Train your core muscle. It will get stronger. And usually does get stronger if you practice every day, right? Your core muscle will get stronger. Similarly, if you're trying to avoid all the emotions, that if you overcome, you'll get more confident. How will you get confident? Tarun, to your answer, Tarun, what you asked, right? So please stop avoiding being embarrassed. Stop avoiding being scared. Go into situations where you feel, okay, fine, you know what, crossing that road makes me scared. Okay, hold someone's hand one day and cross with that person safely. But hold someone's hand. Then someday, slowly, probably you'll cross without having to this. And what will happen is generally your mind, no, in your mind, the wiring between fear will reduce. So that same wiring works when you're on stage also. So on stage also, somewhere you will realize how to overcome fear. While all you were doing is crossing the road and trying to overcome that fear, the other fear on stage of communication also goes away. Yeah, because it's the same muscle, it's the same wiring which is working. Fear. Embarrassment, how much we try from childhood, and especially in our Indian culture, we have been raised to say, don't speak in front of someone, you'll embarrass us. Don't do this, you'll embarrass us. Oh, don't embarrass. Oh, shame to the family, shame to the family. If she opens her mouth, it'll be a shame. If he opens the mouth, it'll be shame. Ari, but you have to experience little bit of it, because if you don't, then you'll always be scared of feeling ashamed and never feel confident talking with someone. Dhanashree, you have a question.
Actually, I wanted to share something. I was a drama student back in my school.
Yes.
So they used to make us practice specifically in an area where
Yeah.
we can be seen by other children, so
Yeah.
that our stage fear cancels out. So
Yeah.
I think this is what you mean right now.
Yes, absolutely. I'll tell you. That's why, people say children, क्या ही होगा मतलब drama सीख के स्कूल में, क्या ही होगा sports खेल के स्कूल. See, sports is not only played because you want to become a sports person. And sports is definitely not only played to be fit in life. Sports is also played as a child. Ideally, you should play, as children should be encouraged to play sports, is because so that they know and they be absolutely confident and accept what losing and the embarrassment of losing feels like. Right or wrong? Anybody respond?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
So all the things like she said, right? What you spoke about drama. That's why you learn drama in school. It's not just because you want to become an actor, and it's not even just because you want to become a good communicator. It's because just to build your confidence. Tomorrow you might be working on a desk and no, not communicating with anybody for that matter. But it will generally develop your confidence, because which emotion does it work on? It works on all these emotions of embarrassment, fear, all the emotion it works on. It basically helps improve the muscle of emotions, right? So you have to today, if you're taking anything from here, two, three things please take. One, you have to sharpen your senses. Start looking at photo. Like I've got to, I had got a presentation for you guys. I hope I can present. Yeah. Can you see this? I'm gonna,
Yes.
yeah? Okay. I said close and it closed. Once again, sorry. Okay. So I'm going to skip all of this. I'm not going to show you all of this, but I'm just going to show you some, not this, not this, not this. Okay. I'm going to show you this picture, okay? Does anybody remember this picture?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
COVID.
COVID. All of you remember, but some of you remember, huh? How many pictures came at that time? And after that, how many pictures have come? Thousands, lakhs, millions, right?
Yes.
Why do you guys remember this picture?
Because it says some stories.
Yeah, what is it telling you, Ritika?
Mm, the migration, that one disappointment with the government, I guess.
Yeah. But do you know the photographer had taken many other pictures in this trip?
Uh,
But he chose this picture. You know why? Because he knew this will be most memorable, because he knew the vocabulary of visuals. And he knew that, when, can you see this eye, right? This eye?
saying something,
It's saying
definitely.
something. What is it saying to you, Ritika?
Uh, he has some responsibility in his arm,
In his arm.
and and
What is his
he's
eyes
very
saying? What is his
disappointed
eyes?
with their life and circumstances.
Yes.
He's very tensed right now in that
Yes.
picture,
Yes.
but he can't express with the words, so his eyes saying all this thing.
I saying all of that. So what is that feeling? That feeling is, there are two things happening. You absolutely rightly said here. There is a lot of the word you used just now was responsibility, right?
Yeah, yes.
But you know what? Every person who's had a family, especially
Yeah.
people who are middle-aged and all, they understand what it is to take care of a child, and then to take care of a child in this ridiculous circumstance. And that responsibility they can see through this. Because the photographer here, and I'll tell you his name later if you already don't know, he knew that, you know, he has to send a message with one image to people saying this is how bad the migrants are going through, bad experience, right? So he could have shown just people walking with even that saman, this guy with saman here behind. But he chose the picture with a child. And these eyes are actually a little accusing eyes. They are helpless eyes, and they are questioning the person who's seeing, saying, "Where are you?" Because everyone who could influence anything for these people were people who were comfortably sitting at home, isn't it? So this picture has to call out to them saying, "Do something for me. Do something for us." Yeah.
Yes, definitely, definitely, for sure.
That's how this photojournalist has taken this picture and selected of all the pictures, he selected this. See, there were pictures like this also, right? At that time? Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
But the
On
most,
media as well.
but there are thousands of
Yeah.
pictures like this, but you remember this one. Yeah?
Yeah.
And I get very emotional while speaking about this, particularly because, okay, this is also his picture only. And this is a picture from Kashmir when the whole Kashmir violence was happening. Here. This is basically the Rohingya Muslims coming into trying to enter. And this is during CAA, the CAA, this thing, this guy came and put the gun, right? And remember, all the police were standing behind. I don't know if you guys remember the CAA protest. And the cops are standing behind. Do you know what the best talent of this photographer was? Tell me what the best talent of this photographer was.
Courage, maybe.
Courage. Courage is
Yeah.
one. Courage is one, definitely. What else?
Wow.
He,
Storytelling, maybe. His picture is,
yeah, for sure. For sure, he can storytell. Yeah.
yeah.
But his biggest talent was always to reach the situation, like always go to ground zero. And we never considered that as a skill. And we never
Yeah.
considered that as an ability. Look
Because
at it.
that's the part of the photojournalism, right? That's the first stage of the photojournalism to reach the
But there are
ground zero.
there are so many photojournalists. You know, this is the same guy. Remember the drone shot during COVID from top? वो जो पूरा graveyard का, there was a
Oh
fire.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that.
There were so many photojournalists, but he knew that 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 graveyard is surrounded by compound, and nobody is allowing me to go there. But still, he went there. Why? Through a drone, he went there because his ability was, and his absolute adamant desire was that I will reach there. So to be a good communicator, you have to reach there. You want to write about it, you want to click a picture about it, you want to talk about it on radio, or you want to present an idea to somebody. You have to reach there. You are a researcher, you have to reach the spot. And not because it's your job, it has to become your ability. You know, the world now, people like to sit at home. People like to work from home. Already we've got a dictate also saying work from home, right? This is what work. I'm not saying that you should not rest and everything. I am a big champion of saying you should equally, one third of your life you should rest only, fully rest. Okay. And it is not waste of time. It is the best use of time. Okay. One third of your life you should just rest and do full chill activities. No problem. But in the third of your life, you should always be where you should be, so that you can communicate well, so that you can tell the story well of those people, or any job that is needed for you. You have to go there to ground zero. If you are a factory owner, you should be there on the floor also, working with hanging around with your workers also on the floor. No matter how big you get, you have to always be on ground zero, right? And this is the picture of the photojournalist. And that's why I get very emotional, because he is no more. His name is Danish Siddiqui. How many of you know Danish Siddiqui?
Yes, ma'am.
Tarun, you know. But very few people know. And I feel very sad, because he was the eye of India when in the last few years we have gone through the worst of the situations. If his pictures were not there, we wouldn't have known only that these things happened. It's because of him we know. And it's because of his great communication skill, and that is not the photography skill. Not that he learned the camera कोई भी सीख लेता है. YouTube से कुछ भी सीख लेते हैं आजकल. No problem. And I have no judgment also. You must use all tools that you have. Learn from YouTube also. But his best ability was, which very few people have, he was fearless to go anywhere to capture the story. And that is exactly where he died. He died in Afghanistan when the Americans were retreating and the Taliban was taking over. Some of the Talibanis killed him. And that is where he died. And losing a communicator, expert level communicator, it just stops so much of stories coming to you. Because, not because every day there is a photographer being born, no, because they are learning photography. Then why is there so much of loss? Is because the skill of the communicator was not photography ever. His skill was always reaching the place and having the sensitivity in his heart to capture the story. So many photos. Do you know how many journalists are there today in Delhi, Bombay, Agra, Pune, Solapur, all over the country, Madurai, everywhere? So many journalists are there. But if you don't have the ability and the passion to do that hard work to reach there, that drive to reach there, or if you don't have the sensitivity to capture the story, like he could have just, see, there are many people who captured this picture also, no? It's a nice picture. It's actually a very painful picture also. This is also equally painful. Yeah, but he's a better communicator, does this. And that's because he knew something about human condition. He knew that who my audience is. He knew that the people who are seeing is my audience and what is the message. So that sensitive, that pain of a father. And I'll tell you where it comes from, because there is also a picture of Danish himself with his son on his shoulder somewhere in the internet. I have seen it. So he understands. So as a father, he understood that this was very appealing. So that sensitivity has to develop. So good communicator has very good sensitivity about human condition. Yeah. And these are the things which probably some of the YouTube things will not tell you. Only through practice, like practicing for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, that all of us have practiced communication, we have understood. Because, we have tried so many tools, we have tried so many ways when we were starting communication. Like my colleagues, my friends, whoever was starting in, like I've done my this master's in XIC. So there were people doing journalism, PR, film, advertising is what I did. Each one of us, right, was tried for 10 to learn different things, and eventually after 20 years, 25 years, what we have realized is actually what is needed for communication are things that, it's all human qualities. It has nothing to do with the tools. The tools are important, which we can learn, anyone can learn. But what makes a good what makes the difference between a regular communicator, an average communicator, and a great exceptional communicator is actually their level of confidence, which comes from them being completely okay to experience any kind of emotion, to their passion and drive and hard work to reach wherever the story is or wherever the receiver is. So that, because if I want to communicate to, say, farmers tomorrow, like if I'm a politician, I cannot just keep doing online or even from some, radio channel or something. Someday I have to go between them. Bharat Jodo Yatra was one of the best examples of communication. That's why going to ground, right? So that thing, that connection, right, to that drive to then the last thing is sensitivity. You have to be a very sensitive person, and not in a way that, people always think sensitivity means someone who cries. No, sensitivity means you can understand someone else. Empathy, you can understand what the other person is feeling, and you feel bad about it, and you say that no, this should not happen, and you say that I want to tell it to other people also, this should not happen. Yeah, that sensitivity. So if each one of us is a policymaker, see, policymaker, people feel that I'll be doing some analysis, I'll be doing some research, and then I'll be just putting it down on paper. My team and I, we just finished a 100-page policy on office wellness, which could be hopefully the India's first office wellness policy. And we are piloting it in Kerala. It was part of the Congress Kerala manifesto as well. But it started with sensitivity because a young lady called Anna Sebastian passed away, and some of us and Mr. Gandhi, and also our chairperson Mr. Praveen Chakravarti, they couldn't imagine the pain that Anna's parents would have gone through. It came from sensitivity. And then they said that, we have to work on this policy. We have to do something so that more Anna Sebastians don't happen and end up this way. Right. And then all of us also gathered, keeping, like, honestly, we did the entire policy, keeping everyone's, all stakeholders' point of view in mind, because that is about also being sensitive, right? And that shows in the policy today, I feel, because it is not just one-sided policy. It has taken the employer, employee, we've taken inputs from psychologists, from doctors, from parents of young people who are working today, and the parents are very scared of how their children are working, right? We've taken everyone's point of view, and that is being sensitive, right? And for me, I understood, because working with a sensitive versus I work with sensitive teams and non-sensitive teams also. And I've seen the difference in the output. Their communication is so much more stronger of people on teams who are sensitive. And I found it very easier to work with them. Yeah. So I would say that Raghu Rai is there. He's a photographer who recently passed away. I think it was just a week back he passed away, 10 days ago. Again,
Yes, ma'am.
ace photographer. Danish Siddiqui. Please go and see and spend some time just looking at the picture. Looking at the picture. I will give you one Instagram page. Okay, it's about paintings. I will just give you. Once again, give me. Yeah, the Instagram page is called Explaining Paintings. The profile picture has Mona Lisa's painting in that. It's called Explaining Paintings. Yeah, if anybody is interested, please follow that page. And every day, you don't have to do too much of practice. Every day they will post one thing. Just see that post and see what they are explaining about the painting. because they show the small parts of the painting and then the larger picture also. Yeah. And then they explain that, when, people just look at modern art, people say, Arey, what are they seeing in that painting? There are two people standing there, right? So but those people are actually trained in visual communication. So they can see the layers in communication. Like we have learned ABCD, now they have learned the ABCD and the vocabulary of that. There are some people who cry when they hear, say, some classical music or something. That's because they understand that vocabulary and the feeling of what that music is trying to tell them. Yeah. So these are some things that I think you should, you know, then there is, of course, a larger presentation which one can go through. But currently, I just wanted to show this much. Yeah. Any questions? I think we have overshot the time. So if anybody has quick questions, I can answer them and then we can wrap up.
I think we are done now. Anyone? Anyone? No one, I guess. So, lastly, I will ask you one question. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, firstly, my name is Ritika Rai, and I'm currently handling the Outage Students Intern team
Okay.
at YIP.
Okay.
Since my role is involving engaging with the students' team coordination and building meaningful communication channel, I wanted to ask you one thing. From a leadership perspective,
Yeah.
what communication trait do you believe most strongly influence trust and long-term professional success,
Yeah.
especially while you are
Very good
managing
question.
and mentoring a young talent?
Very good question. Very good question. And somebody had asked me this about some senior clients that I had because I was leaving the job and going. And they said the way you kind of, work with these clients, how can the next person kind of, work with them? Or any other clients that you come, like how do you become a good advertiser, basically they ask me. And there's a simple and the same thing, advertising is also basically sending a message to the mass population, right? You could have
Right.
work on brew advertising, I used to work on Tata Sky and all these things, right? You're just advertising, but also you're servicing a client, right? The client there.
Yeah.
And also now I build teams, right? Just like you just have to fall in love with them, nothing else. There is no other ability, and you might find this as a strange thing. And when I say fall in love, of course not romantic love, like that's strange, but
Agree.
you absolutely have to be delightful that these people are there in your life, and your waking life should be that how can I be helpful to them? And there are all types of people. I mean, I manage teams and I've lost my mind with some people. Right? And it's crazy. Okay, either they don't respond or they don't, how do you see this thing? And that's fine. That's fine. But if there are even three people in that team who you
Yes.
believe in and you have to generate that energy and that love. Like good leaders have the ability to just generate love. And that's why they say this person is Jananayak and mass leader. Why? Because in that one moment, they can experience love for crores of people, right? And they can feel that, yes, I have to do this for them. And that quality of a leader has to be there. So one of the
Exactly.
things is, of course, whenever there are some tricky engagements with some people in the team. In that situation, you have to try to solve it in some way possible. And there are some days you'll lose your mind, you'll get upset, angry, and you'll have a bad argument also with people. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Next day, just come back and just generate that love. And I don't know how old you are, but with age, what happens is that because it's the age, no, nothing happens. You just start, if you're very conscious about what you want to do and you really want to do it, your practice only improves, nothing else. Okay. So you keep practicing in many times. So what one experiences in their 40s, they can't explain to a 20-year-old, not because the 20-year-old cannot understand it, or rather doesn't have the ability to do it. It's just that they've not had that much experience. They're just 20 years old. So in another 20 years old, they'll also understand this. So I'm saying that this practice has to continuously happen. right? So today it might feel like, oh, I have to do it very consciously. It's like driving the car or anything, right? First time when you hold, it's very difficult. Or you're trying to play the guitar, it's very difficult.
Yes.
Over time you start playing the guitar unconsciously. मतलब हाथ में आया, you're talking to somebody and playing the guitar, and one nice tune is coming out. Why? Because it's just practice. So initially when you're trying to just generate this love, no, it's going to be very awkward, and you're like, oh my god, this is very tiring, this is so laborious, like this feels like work, and this also
Mm-hmm.
feels like futile. Why am I even doing this? And that's when a lot of people even leave guitar and also leave becoming a leader same time, right? Because it just feels like this is too much. My brain is on fire. These people don't deserve love. Like I shouldn't, and all that happens. But over time, na, it just starts generating from time to time. Like very automatically, it will start generating because your mind will be tuned to do that.
Okay, cool.
That's what I'll say.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, most welcome. I'm very happy to meet all of you, and all the best to everyone here. All of you have started on a very good path, very constructive work, right? All kind of policy work, all kind of political work, any kind of research work, extremely constructive. This world needs more of that. Yeah, so I'm very happy that all of you have taken the right direction, and I wish all of you very, very well. Yeah,
Okay, okay, Pallavi. Thank you so much.
so thank you for your
Thank
time.
you, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye bye. Good night.
Good night.